program is brought to you by Strategies for Wealth Management.
Are you prepared for financial storms that may lie ahead, that may affect your retirement portfolio? Welcome to Smart Retirement, everyone. My name is Laura Lehrhaupt. I'm joined with my husband, Michael Lehrhaupt. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
We're not talking weather, although we use weather terms to talk about this.
Definitely. We're talking about financial storms.
Yes.
And how they can affect you and your future and your financial independence.
So I was saying we're not talking about weather,
right,
but something happened the other day that doesn't happen in the Northeast very much.
Right.
We were relaxing on a Sunday afternoon, enjoying a Sunday, just the two of us, watching a movie, and all of a sudden my phone started beeping crazy.
Right?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Maybe you were doing it. No, I heard this noise, picked up my phone, and it was like,
what is that?
Tornado on the way, take cover, shelter. It's within miles of your house. And I really was very nervous.
Yes, you were.
And that's what brought us to this show today, in a sense.
The thing about financial storms is they're unexpected. And that's what we're really going to talk about, the unexpected things. No warning. The unexpected things that can happen that could derail your financial or your retirement plans.
Now, there was no warning. Well, there was a warning. It was like 5 minutes before there was a warning.
Well, interesting enough, tornado, like if you look at technology nowadays, okay, we get some tornado warnings. Years ago, they didn't have that. Imagine not having the warning.
I understand.
But we're going to talk about the storms that don't have the warning signs, or maybe they have a little warning sign, but my attitude is the more you can prepare, the better off you're going to be.
Yes.
So I'll give you credit, because the one thing is when that alarm rang, you knew exactly what room in the house to go to and exactly what to take with you.
And that's what I was going to say. So even though we don't have like a tornado shelter that everybody out in the Midwest probably has, we, without maybe realizing it, I mean, we have a basement here in Connecticut, and the phone said, shelter, get in a center room without windows, and not everybody has that, but we did have it. Of course, I grabbed my water, I grabbed the dog, I grabbed my phone, and I was sitting in that room, and you were like, what are you doing?
Well, I was, but besides the point, look, we've been in this business a long time.
We have.
And personally, I've done this business for close to 35 years now, 30 to 35 years.
Yeah.
And I have met thousands of people. And I have seen what works, I have seen what does not work, and I have had stories upon stories, some very successful, some not as successful.
Yeah.
Some people got caught in the financial storm of 2008 when the market crashed and the S&P crashed close to 53%. And they were unprepared for that. And they spent years making their own money back. Some lost their businesses during that time and then rebuilt it. Then COVID came and they lost their businesses again. We've heard it all. And we're going to talk about some of the things you need to be prepared for, at least acknowledge that the problem could be there so that you can prepare for these storms.
I think it's really important just to be aware that outside things affect your portfolio that no one has control over. We're gonna identify them for everyone today. And talk about, look, we can't, the thing that's really going to mess us up is the thing we don't know.
The thing we don't know. But it's not only your money, it's also your emotional well-being, your health, your stress. So money is a big part of it, but there's other aspects of it as well.
All right. So the biggest thing, I think, at least top of mind for me and for a lot of the people we meet with, is unexpected healthcare costs. Because obviously, as you age, your chances of encountering some sort of a health issue greatly rise. And people not preparing for that is something we find all the time.
And you're dealing right now with
that.
I
am. Yeah, my mom isn't doing so great. She is, unfortunately struggling with some health issues. The good news is we had the wherewithal to help plan for her. And that was really great. So that's a really positive thing that we planned and we're okay. Not everybody has been so fortunate.
From a financial point of view, you're okay, but I've seen the emotional toll it's taking
tough.
You and your brother and your sister.
Yeah.
But let me back up for a second. Look, when we turn 65, we're eligible for Medicare, and Medicare is health care through the federal government.
Right.
So Medicare pays for a lot of doctors' hospitalizations. There are some deductibles and things like that. People pick up a Medicare supplement or Medicare Advantage plan to cover those copays. But what's not covered under Medicare and what's not covered under Medicare supplements or Advantage plans is a thing called long-term care.
Yeah.
And long-term care can be nursing homes, but it could be home care or assisted living. It really is a need or help for day-to-day activities of living.
Yeah.
If someone needs help eating, walking, dressing, going to the bathroom, and all they need is that kind of care. It's called custodial care. They're on their own. Nothing pays for it long-term, except if you buy private insurance or you rely on family or use your own money.
And that's why we bring it up, because it really is important to sit down with your family and develop some sort of a plan. We've met people who decide that their family is going to pitch in, which is fine if that's something your family wants to do, and everyone's going to help out the individuals that are suffering. And then we found families that actually have the means to be able to find some way to insure it and make it a little bit less stressful. Whatever it is, there needs to be a plan. It has to be addressed.
I think it has to be addressed. I think it has to be talked about. Look, depending on your age, depending on your health, depending on your finances, there are ways you can insure or at least plan for these problems financially, emotionally, right? But there's a lot of options on the table, but I think the earlier you do it, the better. Let's talk about risk. Everybody insures their house.
Yeah.
The risk of a house burning down is maybe 1 in 1,200, right? The risk of needing long-term care when you're 65 and over, if you're 65 and over, the risk is close to 50%.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean nursing home. It could be home care. Most people want to stay at home, so let's have a plan to keep you at home, right? Like options are the key to this, and that's what your mother did, stayed at home.
And I think in terms of how it affects retirement, I mean, these costs are quite expensive. You know, I mean, let's talk about physical therapy for my mother. I mean, we have a plan for her. I mean, if you're deciding your family is going to take care of, you know, your loved one, but then they need something that you're not capable of doing, it could really chip into your retirement portfolio. And that's why we're addressing it today, because this is something that can affect your portfolio. It's unexpected. No one wants it. No one really wants to talk about it, but it should be spoken about.
The cost of nursing homes here in Connecticut could be anywhere from like, I'm at 100, 120, 150,000 a year.
Yeah.
I've seen people wiped out after they save, have this nice portfolio, 401ks, and then wiped out because of long-term care.
Yeah.
So there are ways to cover it. There are things you can do. Please understand it is a big risk. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I got good news and bad news. What do you want to hear first?
You know, I like the bad news first, because then I like to soften the bad news with some good news. So tell me the bad news.
People think because they're in good health, they have a less risk of needing long-term care. I would say the opposite. Because you are in good health and you might live a long life, that's the good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is that long life risk, one of them is long-term care. Comes with something.
Yeah. So, okay. So we've talked about the unexpected.
And by the way, you know, we mentioned the story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are people out there touting like how to protect your assets from long. Hey, if that's the direction you take, okay, just get legal advice from it. But there are professionals out there and people out there. How do I hide my money so I can go in a nursing home and not have to pay?
Yeah.
Look, it gets complicated, right? But there's a story about Captain and Tennille. Remember, love will keep us together.
I know, this is unbelievable, this story.
Love did not keep them together because there's speculation. They got divorced, and there's a lot of speculation as to why. But one of the things is he got very, very sick, and there's speculation that the reason they got divorced is to hide their assets so that she didn't burn through all the assets of his health care. It's a very complex situation.
So,
all I'm saying is research, plan for it.
So the in sickness and in health part is not in the song Love Will Keep Us Together, I guess.
I guess not.
So, all right, so now we go to another topic, and I feel like it's a little more known, but I'm not sure if our viewers really understand that it can really affect your portfolio, and that's the risk of the stock market volatility, you know, and having a lot of your savings and a lot of your investing heavy into the stock market as you approach the retirement planning when you're getting close to retirement and possibly losing it. So this is a big risk.
And you and I know this, right? When you start to take income from your portfolio, the whole game changes.
Yes.
The whole strategy changes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you're 30 years old and the market goes up and the market goes down, it's a roller coaster up and down, and over time maybe you're ahead, great. But when you start taking money, income out of that portfolio and the market goes down, you don't have the time or the money to recover it. You took the money out, the market recovers, your money's not recovering.
Yeah.
It's called a sequence of returns. Look, if you have the luck of retiring and you have 3 bad years in the market in the beginning of your retirement, your risk of running out of money is very, very high. Where if you retired and you had 3 good years, maybe not so. So that market volatility risk is so crucial. And look, I always say this, you cannot create a sustainable, comfortable, predictable retirement using unpredictable assets. It doesn't work. It never did.
Yeah, and what is compromising it or making it even more, confusing and hard to really figure out is there are things that affect the market in its own, so the market's risky, but then there are outside things that affect the stock market in itself, right? So the stock market volatility affects our portfolio, but things outside of that affect the stock market, like pandemics, like real estate plunges, right? Like wars in other countries,
9/11,
like like domestic terrorism and international things that we just don't have control over affect the stock market, and that in turn affects your portfolio.
And I don't want to take this lightly,
Yeah.
because I think this is a very serious conversation.
Sure.
It's the things you don't know that will happen that will create havoc in the market. Look, 9/11, back when 9/11 happened around 2001.
Yeah.
The market crashed because of the internet bubble. And then everybody woke up one day and the world changed. There was no 9/11 before 9/11.
Well, 911 was the emergency phone number.
Yeah, well,
I remember thinking to myself,
it's weird, right?
Isn't that going to be weird? Everyone's going to refer to 911, but it was weird. It was very
We could
strange.
talk about how horrible that was,
It
but
was
the
bad.
fact is it affected people's money.
Yeah.
We have an election coming up. Regardless of
Huge.
political decisions, political opinions, or whatever, what if? What if there's no winner?
Well,
what
that
if there's
is the
no
next
determined
right.
winner?
So this is what I was going to talk about
uncertainty.
next. The uncertainty of not having an immediate obvious winner in the election, having that drag on could really affect our portfolios.
And we're just speculating of the surprises, right?
Yes.
So it's like,
that's what we say.
You got to understand the thing that will affect your money is probably not what we're talking about. Look, you watch the news, you watch these financial programs and all the bigwigs pontificating about how the market's going to do. It's guessing games. Nobody really knows. And then one day you wake up and COVID happens, right?
Yes.
And it changes everything, and there's ripple effects. All we're saying is if you want a comfortable, sustainable, predictable retirement, you can't count on the mercy of the market for that, in our opinion, because it usually doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, okay. So, you talked about election. We talked about housing bubbles. We talked about the unexpected thing we don't know. Let's talk about another thing that affects your retirement portfolio, and I'm going to call it part of the financial storm, taxes.
Taxes, yeah.
Taxes in retirement really are, at least with the people we meet on a daily basis, a very big concern. Now, it's not unexpected, because if you ask people, oh, do you think taxes are going to go up or down? Most people know it's going to go up. The question is, have you prepared, even though you think and know? That it's going to go up. Have you prepared in your planning for your retirement to accommodate for rising taxes?
Right. So the question is, now you're retired, you're taking out income. Is the income you're taking out taxable? And what level is it taxable, right? There's different tax strategies or different tax rates. But here's the thing, most people, what we see, have what we call a tax torpedo heading their way. They've done a really good job saving their money in retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans. That money was pre-tax money. When it comes out, guess what you're going to pay?
You're going to pay the piper.
You're going to pay the piper. You're going to pay
Uncle
the tax.
Sam.
So the government, think about it this way, the average client we see is usually between 22 to 24% tax bracket. All right? Now, if you take that into account and then you take the state taxes of Connecticut, maybe 7%, the government owns about 1/3 of the portfolio. Now, if taxes go up, they're going to own more. Or if you die and leave the portfolio to a non-spouse, they got to take it out quicker. Their tax burden is higher.
Yeah.
So where we say, there is a little bit of a warning on the tax thing. It's not like where you don't know the tornado's coming.
Right.
You know it, but have you planned for it? Have you really looked at the assets and said, the majority of money's in these pre-tax accounts. I have to adjust and figure out how to take it out so I can maximize the income and minimize the taxes.
And while we're talking about this just for a minute, I think we should throw in one of the things that leaving retirement savings and retirement accounts to loved ones passes on the tax burden. And it's not
On
always
the retirement accounts.
on the retirement account. Not always the best thing to use for legacy. Often better to use immediately or as you draw out retirement income, because you're just leaving this tax torpedo for your kids or your loved one.
It's usually you say that. Last week I met with a client.
Yeah.
And the client had this rather large amount in their IRA. And she was like, I want to leave it to the kids. Now, after further understanding her situation, her only income coming in was Social Security. And she got about $35,000 a year from Social Security. And she started telling to me, look, I only go to the supermarket. I'm very frugal. I don't spend a lot. I go to the supermarket once a week because if I go more, I'm going to spend more. And she was so nervous about her money, we had to have a deep conversation, a heart-to-heart conversation. Now, she had some other money that she was coming into. She wanted to give the kids, right? So the conversation was, would you like to help the kids while you're alive and maybe enjoy and see the gift of the money while you're alive? Or when you're dead, leave them money that's going to be taxed, you know, it's worth 60 cents on the dollar, right?
I mean, you're
where
messing
you
them
don't
up.
even see anybody enjoy
Right.
it. Or take it out slowly. And by the way, would you like to have more income so you don't have to worry about going to the supermarket? You deserve to enjoy your money. And if you have more income than you need, okay, give the kids the gifts
Give
while
a little
you're alive.
gift. Buy a little something while you're with us, and that you can see their joy in receiving
Exactly.
it. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, I think, you know, we're all so fearful about outliving it, and yet we don't want to spend it for while we're here. So it's definitely a fine line to walk. You have to enjoy what you've saved, but you also have to learn how to enjoy life, right?
Definitely.
You can't.
I mean, we were able to set up with a guaranteed lifetime income stream from that IRA where she knows as long as she lives, she's going to get the income. And now every year she could take the income and help her kids. And then I said, look, we can actually take part of the income if you're in good health and buy a life insurance policy. And then you could leave that life insurance proceeds tax-free to your kids. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it with proper planning when you use professionals.
Yeah, I think that's important. You just said proper planning, and that is, we built a basement and we didn't know there'd be our tornado warning, but we had the basement and we had the room with all the machinery in it.
Yeah.
But it had no windows, no outside walls, and I felt really safe.
Now I'm looking outside. She's like, what are you doing? I'm looking outside.
You did more than look outside. You legit walked outside.
Well, with all due
just
fairness,
saying,
there was
people.
some furniture out there I wanted to take in case this wind is going, but the clouds are, I mean, look,
Yeah, I'll tell you though.
I was ready to bolt into that
If we ever
room.
have this again, and this is true about planning in your retirement, right? Like, once you plan and something happens and you're good, you feel confident.
You make adjustments.
So but I feel confident. Like if something ever happens again and that phone noise happens and there's a tornado, which I hope doesn't happen, I know we have a basement. I know we're safe, and I'm not going to panic, right? I'm going to be like, okay. And that's because of experience has taught me. I've planned, maybe without really realizing it. So when you plan your portfolio properly, the stress of the anxiety of it really goes away, and it's also worth it. Maybe a little, frustrating to come up with a plan and feel a little stressful, but it feels good. So this next one is something people don't think of, because I think people think it would never happen to them. It's the surprise retirement farewell.
Right. The surprise retirement.
Yeah, this one's like, a friend of ours is retiring, I think, in like 2 weeks now. He's had a countdown calendar on his phone. He's counting the days. But here's the deal. He's lucky, because we also have had clients come in and, hey, guess what? They went to work on Monday and were told, you're retiring. We're ready for you to retire, right?
We've had this happen three times in the last few weeks where someone comes in, they spent their we know someone personally, and we helped them, but spent their life working for an organization, one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. Yeah, I'm a pretty hard worker. I think you would agree. We work really hard.
For sure, we're passionate about what we do. We're 100% dedicated, absolutely.
And we were in the same building. When I'm in the office, he's in the office.
Yes.
He was a hard worker, gave his life, his soul. And one day, and he was 65, he wanted to work till 70. And one day he came in.
Well, that's 10 years. That's planning, that's a big chunk of time he was planning to continue working.
He was 65, he wanted to work till 70.
I didn't realize that. Oh, 70, 5 years.
Yeah, 75
years. It's still a big chunk of time. It's not like he's going to retire in 2 years. 5 more years.
But he enjoyed it. He liked it.
I get it.
And one day he came in and they said, we're going in a different direction. For whatever reason, maybe they wanted to save money, they're paying, I don't know, but they're going in a different, he was heartbroken. emotionally he was devastated. Luckily, we set up an income plan for him years before that, so we were able to create income. He didn't lose a step. But imagine the surprise retirement, and you go, what do I do now? Do not wait for that.
Yeah, this is a kind of storm that's really scary. It's man-made. It's not nature.
Yeah.
And look, I don't want to scare viewers to thinking they're going to walk into work and have their pink slip. Is that what it's called? Like handed to them?
Call whatever you want.
Call whatever you want. But
we're going in a different direction.
I don't love that. So it's really important to be able to plan knowing that things can change at any time, right?
Well,
Pivot.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
There was a study done
Yeah.
that asked people what age they'd like to retire at. And by far, the answer was 65. But the actual real age average of retirement was 62. And it's because surprise retirement happens every
because
day.
people are told you're retiring.
Either
now.
one or two things. Either there's a health issue and they're forced to stop working, or sometimes the company's like, we're going in a different direction. So in other words, people said, 65 is the average age, but the realistic age of when people retire was average 62.
I want to go back to our friend who's retiring. It wasn't a pink slip or a, hey, surprise, you're retiring. But they did offer early retirement packages.
Oh, our friend for 30 years, yes.
And they said, we're going to create a package, and it was very easy to take it.
But that wasn't a surprise.
Except that his wife was very nervous about the whole thing.
Yes.
So there was still stress involved in taking the retirement that you didn't expect to take, right? Like
they came in all nervous in the office.
She was up all night.
They're very upset. There's nothing better as an advisor to when someone comes in like that and you address their fears and you show them the solutions you planned for, and they leave, so much with peace of mind.
Yeah.
As an advisor, I don't think this is a better feeling in the world.
Well, that's what we do, and
Yeah.
I think it's really important because the surprise retirement can look many different ways. It can be walking in like that one gentleman that we know on Monday, we're going a different direction.
Right.
And the other way, which is we have this great package and you taking it, but your partner being a little freaked out, right? So the other thing about all of this financial storm stuff is if you're with a partner, make sure to involve them in the plan.
Yes.
It's really important to be on the same page with your, there's all kind of dynamics in partnerships. We've seen them all. We've seen money is completely separate. Don't put my name on their account, right? Haven't we?
Don't tell my spouse about my money.
We have. And then we have, I just had someone yesterday, whatever he says, the couple that I met with, and she just let him make the decisions. But it's important to be aware as partners where you stand on certain things, because our friend, he took the package and it really freaked her out. And we were able, luckily, to make them feel good about the decision. But it could have gone another way. So I'm just.
You bring up another point that we see sometimes, where if one spouse is handling everything and the other spouse has no idea what's going on, if that spouse passes, the spouse who's left has no idea what's going on.
By the way, you just revealed right now a live financial storm is the passing of the partner who did all the planning when the uninvolved one is left.
Now what? Yeah.
That's amazing, honey. You just did it. But I have sat down with that very person. I've had two stories. One story, I won't say his name, but I do love him, and I hate not mentioning his name because he's a wonderful client. We sat down about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, with his wife, who is one of those people who's like, anything he says. But at this particular meeting, we were going over their account, and he said to his wife, when I die, please call Laura.
Yeah, I remember.
I want Laura to help you through. And I was just like, I almost started to cry. Because that, first of all, meant he had a lot of trust in my ability. And he also gave her a gift right there. Because when someone passes away, you've been married to 50, 60 years, you really lose all sense of everything. And so she now knows, God forbid something happens to him, she can pick up the phone and call us, and we'll be there for her. And this is really important. It's a financial storm you just revealed. It's really quite amazing because a lot of times in relationships, there's one predominant person, and it could be the husband or the wife. We've seen both.
Definitely. And I know we've talked a lot on this episode, but I think the takeaway is just be prepared.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is be prepared.
We probably had a lot of really important bullet points that a lot of people didn't think about.
I'm sure we missed some too, but
yeah. And you know what? Here's an important thing. If for some reason we missed something and you want to add something to this list, please reach out to us. We're going to have a QR code on the screen available for you to fill out a form, and you can give your comments, or you can also write anything that you'd like to see us discuss.
Yeah, we'd love some suggestions of different topics that you would like to hear us go over. And we're going to have a QR code. Just scan it, fill out the form, and you can actually make recommendations or have questions as we do these smart retirement episodes.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear what the viewers want to hear about. I mean, we see so many people in our, how many years is it, 30 years of practicing this?
Over 30 years?
Over 30 years. You reminded me when you said you've seen it all, your Tom Brady analogy.
Well, I have
makes a really good
thing called the
quarterback.
Tom Brady effect. You know,
Yeah.
the reason Tom Brady was so great at what he does is because in the years of playing, every time he lined up against a defensive line, he said, I saw that strategy before. I've seen this. And he could predict, and he can have an idea of what might happen next because of his experience in the past.
Yeah.
And that's, the thing you bring to a table. When you have experience and you've seen it, you start to see trends and patterns. And the trends and patterns can really help. So that I call the Tom Brady effect, because he lined up and he knew, okay, I've seen this defensive scheme before. I have an idea of what's going to happen. And 9 times out of 10, he was right, which made him an amazing champion.
Yeah, and that's what, I think makes really people who are seasoned and in the business for a long time have a lot of clients. And we're able to identify these common things that affect people.
I think we missed one surprise.
What was the surprise?
Well, no, I think we missed one thing on our sheet, which is inflation too.
Oh, that is it. Let's get that in before we're wrapping
real
up.
quick, because we've got to wrap up soon. But here's the thing, inflation right now is kind of high.
Yes.
But if you remember years ago, inflation was so low, you were earning more dust in your money than interest in the bank, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the government raised, and again, a surprise. There was no time in history that the government did, they raised interest rates so quickly.
Yes.
Quickest in history of how they raise inflation rates. And in effect, it had a ripple effect. And look, right now, some of the short-term rates are pretty good, but that won't last forever. That's a short-term plan for a long-term solution. We need long-term solutions. But high interest rates could be better rates at the bank, but worse rates in the mortgages affecting the housing market right now, right? So it's an edge. It's a give and a take.
Yeah. What inflation does is it makes your buying power. It reduces your buying power. So what you bought years ago for $5 is now not as much, right? And that does affect our retirement portfolio.
So does your money keep up with inflation? Because if inflation's growing at 4, 5, 6%, and you're earning 2%, you're losing money.
Yeah.
Now again, right now we're in times of a little bit high inflation, but that won't last forever, and you want stable inflation.
Yeah, great. Awesome. So I think we hit upon a lot of important subjects today that are going to affect your retirement. We're always looking for smart retirement strategies and things to talk about all around the subject of retirement and really giving you a bright future so you can live the happy life you deserve. Hey, it's been great being with you today. Thank you, honey, for joining me in this great show. And we hope you tune in next time. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
The preceding program was brought to you by Strategies for Wealth Management.
Nutmeg TV has been providing community television for over 30 years. We needed some studio upgrades, and Ion Bank believed in us. As a result of Ion Bank's financial help, we've been able to help others move on in a field that's difficult to get experience in. You're working with partners who understand who you are, and Ion Bank does that. They walk with us every day. It's community banking at its best.
I'm your host, Kurt Barwis. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Andrew Lim.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Veterans Corner. My name's Chuck Wooden.
Decision for ourselves for this week, if we want to be made well.
Hi, welcome to the crack of dawn. It's Dawn Lombardi. I'm starting the painting. It's going to be the clips with some water. Love it.
He took me on the sets of Lost in Space, Batman.
Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time.